The rain poured relentlessly as I stepped into the cafe, the familiar warmth wrapping around me like an old, comforting blanket. I shook off the droplets from my umbrella and made my way to my favorite corner table, the one by the window that offered a view of the bustling street outside. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped me, a scent that had always brought solace during my stormiest days. But today, something else lingered in the air, a sweet floral fragrance that instantly took me back to Jake. I inhaled deeply, my heart racing. It was as if he were right there with me, his laughter echoing in my mind. "Remember this place, Ella?" I could almost hear him say, his voice teasing yet filled with tenderness. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to push the memories away, but it was futile. Images of us flooded my mind. His playful grin, the way his eyes sparkled when he talked about his dreams, the warmth of his hand in mine. I glanced around the cafe, feeling the weight of nostalgia press down on me. The cheerful chatter of patrons felt stifling, suffocating under the weight of my grief. I couldn't help but recall our last moments together, the promise we made on that fateful day. We'll always be there for each other, no matter what. The words felt like a dagger now, twisting painfully in my heart. I blinked back tears, focusing on the cafe's walls adorned with eclectic art. That's when I saw it, an old photograph hanging just above the coffee machine. It seemed to glow softly, drawing me in. I squinted, my heart skipping a beat as I recognized the couple in the picture. They looked strikingly like us, smiling in a moment that felt so familiar. Yet I knew it was taken years before Jake and I ever met.
Ella?
"You okay?" A voice broke through my reverie. It was Mia, the barista, her brow furrowed with concern. "Yeah, just remembering," I managed to say, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. Mia nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "You know I'm here if you need to talk, right?" "Thanks, Mia. I appreciate it," I replied, but even as I said it, I felt a chasm between us, a divide that no one could bridge. I turned back to the photograph, my mind racing. What did it mean? Was it a coincidence or something more? The questions echoed in my mind, blending with the aroma of coffee and the sweet floral scent that lingered, both a comfort and a haunting reminder of what I had lost. The moment I stepped out of the cafe, a chill ran down my spine. The comforting warmth of the coffee shop faded, leaving me exposed to the dampness of the Charleston evening. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, but the cold seemed to seep into my bones. It was as if the shadows were watching, whispering secrets I couldn't quite grasp. "Ella?" The voice was faint, barely more than a breath against the wind, yet it sent shivers racing through me. I paused, glancing around, half expecting to see someone standing just out of sight. My heart raced, pounding in my chest as the whispers continued, each one curling around my name like smoke. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling despite my efforts to sound brave. The street was empty, the cobblestones glistening from the rain, reflecting the streetlights like scattered stars. "Ella?" I shook my head, trying to dispel the eerie sensation wrapping around me. It was impossible. I had just left memories of Jake behind me, and yet here they were, clawing back to the surface. I hurried my pace, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the silence. Each whisper felt like a ghostly reminder of the love I had lost. Once home, I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking. I needed to escape the outside world, to bury myself in the familiar chaos of my apartment. But as I closed the door behind me, I felt a weight settle on my chest. Something was off. I could sense it in the air, thick and charged, as if the very walls held their breath. I wandered toward my closet, my heart still racing from the whispers outside. That's when I noticed it, an old journal, its leather cover worn and frayed, sitting in the back corner. Jake's journal. My breath caught in my throat as I pulled it out, the familiarity of his handwriting igniting a mixture of warmth and ache in my chest. I flipped through the pages, each one filled with his thoughts and struggles. The deeper I read, the more I felt the weight of his past pressing down on me. There was a mention of a figure, someone from his life before me, a name I didn't recognize, but it echoed ominously through the words, "I can't escape her shadow." Who was she? I muttered to myself, the unease settling in. It was as if Jake was reaching out to me, urging me to uncover something buried deep within the pages of his life. That night, sleep came fitfully, haunted by dreams of Jake. In my restless state, I felt his presence, a warmth that wrapped around me, even as the shadows danced in the corners of my mind. "Ella," he whispered, his voice a sweet ache in my heart. "Find the truth." I woke with a start, the chill of the room wrapping around me like a vice. There was something urgent in his tone, a need that transcended the veil between us. I was left breathless, grappling with the reality that love could reach beyond the grave, urging me to uncover the secrets that bound us together, even now. As I entered the small, dimly lit apartment of Jake's friends, a wave of nostalgia washed over me, mingled with a growing sense of dread. The walls were adorned with memories of laughter and camaraderie, yet I felt like an intruder. Lucy, Jake's close friend, greeted me with a tentative smile, her eyes clouded with concern. "Ella, I'm glad you came," she said softly, gesturing for me to sit on the worn-out couch. "I've been worried about you. It's been a rough time since, you know." I nodded, my throat tightening. "I'm just trying to understand him better. I found some things that don't add up." Lucy sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Jake had a lot of layers. There were things he never shared. You know about the incident, right? The one that changed him?" I shook my head, my heart racing. "No, I don't. What happened?" Lucy exchanged a glance with her boyfriend, who sat silently in the corner, his expression grim. "It was years before you met him. He was involved in something dark. A cult, really. They believed in life after death and communicated with the other side." My breath caught in my throat. A cult? Why didn't he ever tell me? "Because it scared him," Lucy replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "After everything that happened, he wanted to distance himself from it. But he couldn't completely break free." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. "What happened in this cult?" Lucy hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands. "There was a tragic event, something he witnessed that haunted him. It changed him, made him obsessed with the idea of the afterlife. He thought he could find a way to communicate with those who had passed." A lump formed in my throat. So he was searching for answers, even after everything? "Yes," Lucy said, her voice trembling. "He thought it would bring him peace, but it only led him deeper into darkness." "Did he ever mention the name of the cult?" I pressed, desperate for clarity. "Only in passing. He called it the Order of the Veil. I thought it was just a phase, but now—" Her voice trailed off, and I could see the fear reflected in her eyes. "Now what?" I asked, urgency bubbling in my chest. "Now I fear he might have been drawn into something he couldn't escape from," she whispered, the weight of her words heavy in the air. I stared at Lucy, the betrayal coursing through me like ice. How could Jake keep this from me? Did he truly believe he could find solace in a place so steeped in shadows? As those thoughts swirled in my mind, the cafe's floral scent returned, wrapping around me like a ghostly embrace. It was as if Jake was reaching out, urging me to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The air in Jake's old house felt thick with secrets as I stepped cautiously into the hidden room. My heart raced with a mix of dread and curiosity. The walls were covered in strange symbols, drawn in dark ink that seemed to pulse with an energy of its own. Candles flickered in the corners, casting eerie shadows that danced and merged into one another. As I took a step further inside, I felt as though I was being watched, the weight of unseen eyes pressing on my shoulders. In the center of the room, an ornate mirror caught my attention. Its frame was intricately carved, adorned with motifs that resembled the symbols on the walls. I approached it, my breath catching in my throat as I peered into its reflective surface. At first, I only saw my own reflection, pale and filled with a sense of foreboding. But then, as I focused, I noticed shadows lurking just beyond my own image, dark figures that seemed to ripple in and out of existence. "Jake," I whispered, the name trembling on my lips. The air grew colder and I shivered, suddenly aware of the silence enveloping me. "You're not alone, Ella," a soft voice echoed in the room, sending chills down my spine. I turned sharply, but there was no one there, just the shadows and the flickering candlelight. I stumbled back, my mind racing. What was happening? Was this some trick of the light? Or was Jake really trying to reach me? I clutched my phone tightly, contemplating whether to call Lucy or the others. But deep down, I knew they would only fuel my fears, and I needed to face this alone. That night, back in my apartment, the unsettling feeling followed me home. I tried to distract myself, turning on the television and scrolling mindlessly through my phone. But the shadows of the previous hour lingered in my mind like a haunting melody. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through my small living room. I jumped to my feet, heart racing. I rushed to the kitchen, where a mug had inexplicably fallen from the counter. "Okay, this is ridiculous," I muttered under my breath, trying to convince myself that I was just tired. But then I heard it, a whisper, soft yet clear. "Ella," my breath hitched in my throat. "Jake," I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. The temperature in the room plummeted, and I could see my breath forming small clouds in the air. "Find me," the whisper urged, echoing through the silence. My heart raced as I scanned the room, desperate for a sign. I felt a presence, a surge of energy that made the hairs on my neck stand on end. "Why can't you just be at peace?" I shouted into the emptiness, frustration boiling over. "What do you want from me?" The room fell silent, and I felt a strange calm wash over me for just a moment. But deep down, I knew that this was only the beginning of something I could never have prepared for. I sat nervously in the dimly lit room, the air thick with incense and the weight of unspoken truths. The medium, Madame Celeste, had an otherworldly presence. Her long, flowing robes seemed to shimmer as she moved. I felt a shiver run down my spine as she fixed her gaze on me. "Ella," she began, her voice low and melodic, "the spirit you seek is restless. He is trying to communicate something vital to you." My heart raced. Jake's spirit. The thought sent a wave of both fear and hope crashing over me. I nodded, barely able to form words. "Are you ready to hear what he has to say?" she asked, her eyes piercing into mine. I hesitated, but the urgency of the situation propelled me forward. "Yes," I finally managed to whisper, my throat dry. Madame Celeste motioned for me to take her hands. As we joined palms, the air thickened with anticipation. She closed her eyes and began to chant softly, words flowing like a gentle river. Suddenly, the room felt colder, and I could almost hear the echoes of whispers swirling around us. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block out the eerie sensations. Then, it happened. A soft voice, familiar yet distant, broke through the fog. "Ella," it whispered, and my heart dropped. It was Jake. My breath caught in my throat as the medium's face transformed, her features contorting into something more ethereal. "I'm here, my love," he continued, his voice echoing with an urgency that sent chills down my spine. "You need to listen. What do you want to tell me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What's wrong?" "I'm not at peace," he said, the sadness in his tone palpable. "You must uncover the truth about my death, Ella. The person responsible, they're still out there." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean? Who?" The medium's voice trembled as she channeled Jake's energy. "It's connected to the cult, the secrets I kept from you. You have to dig deeper." Tears brimmed in my eyes. "But I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid," he replied, the weight of his words heavy in the room. "Afraid of what they would do to you if they knew I had shared this with you." Madame Celeste's eyes fluttered open and she gasped, as if suddenly released from a spell. "He's gone, Ella," she said, her voice shaky. "But you must heed his warning. The truth will set him free, and you as well." I sat there, reeling from the revelation, a storm of emotions swirling inside me. I needed answers, and fast. Jake's voice echoed in my mind, urging me to take the next step. The shadows of the past loomed large, and I was determined to face them head-on, no matter the cost. As I stepped into the dimly lit room where the cult leader held court, the air thickened with an energy I couldn't quite place. Shadows danced along the walls, playing tricks on my senses as I approached the ornate altar at the center. My heart raced, driven by a mix of fear and determination. I had to know the truth about Jake, even if it meant confronting the darkness that had consumed him. "Ella," the leader greeted me with a voice that dripped with an unsettling calm. His eyes glinted with a knowing glimmer that sent shivers down my spine. "What brings you here?" "I know what you did to him," I said, my voice trembling but resolute. "Jake didn't just die, he was sacrificed. You used him." His smile widened, revealing a row of perfectly straight teeth that seemed almost predatory. "Sacrifice is a powerful tool, and it binds the spirit to our realm. Your beloved Jake is part of something much greater now, something he willingly embraced." Willingly? He was terrified of this. I shot back, anger surging within me. He wanted to escape this life, not be bound to it. "Escape is a matter of perspective, dear." He stepped closer, the shadows swirling around him. "Jake was special. He had a gift that we needed, but it seems you've come to claim him back." My breath caught in my throat as the implications settled in. "What do you mean?" The leader's expression shifted into something darker. "You hold the key to his liberation, Ella, but know this. Releasing him may condemn his spirit to an eternity of suffering. He is not the same boy you loved. He is now part of the void." Just then, a figure emerged from the darkness, and my heart leapt into my throat. Jake stood before me, but his eyes glowed with an unnatural light, devoid of the warmth I remembered. "You shouldn't have come here, Ella," he whispered, his voice echoing like a haunting melody. "This is no place for you." "Jake, I started, my voice cracking. But the weight of his gaze held me captive, and the truth began to unravel in my mind. Was this the love I had fought so hard to reclaim? Or was it a twisted reflection of something far more sinister? The air felt heavy with the choices I had to make, and the silence around us deepened, pregnant with the tension of what was to come.